United States Traffic Network seeks a modified account exec to join the sales team. Send your resume to ustrafficnetwork.com/careers. All right, let's talk about this thing yesterday. I went over to my daughter is in town or kind of hanging out in town, and she's been working out over here at Planet Fitness, so she took me along yesterday, and we were walking the treadmill, and the first one to show up was CBS with this shooting, I don't know, around 1 something, maybe 2 something, and right around 2 o'clock. And then next thing you know, it's a weird thing when you're walking a treadmill and they have 10 TVs. They actually have 20 TVs. They have 10 on one side and then 10 on the other. And you're watching it, and I like to watch the sports, and there's guys talking sports. And then you see, well, CBS goes to the active shooter helicopter shot, and then it's the only one covering it. And then there's another one, then there's another one, then there's another one. And at one point, there were 6 televisions right in front of us covering the active shooter at the Florida high school. And it's a bit surreal when it's put to you that way. A former student went on a shooting rampage at a Florida high school yesterday, leaving 17 dead, while panicked students barricaded themselves inside classrooms and frantic parents raced to the scene. Broward County Sheriff's Office said 12 of the dead were killed inside the school. Now, if you know where this is, it was kind of on the west side of Boca Raton, which has been was denoted as the safest town in Florida up until this point, of course. This is catastrophic, said the sheriff, Scott Israel. There really are no words. It happened about 2 p.m. at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High in Parkland, Florida, about 30 miles northwest of Fort Lauderdale. It's a horrific situation. It's just a horrible day for us. This is a day we prayed would never happen in our country. All right, every high school in the country has a police presence, adding there are typically 2 officers at every school, he said. Now, Margate Fire Chief Dan Booker said that more than 20 people were hurt, although he could not confirm exactly how many had been injured, and around 20 injured and 17 killed. And what do we know about this guy, huh? Let's see. Shooting. We know it was a 19-year-old kid by the name of Cruz who came back with an AR-15, from if I remember correctly, and he came back and just started shooting the place up. And this comes just weeks after a rampage at a rural Kentucky high school. A 15-year-old faces 2 counts of murder and 12 counts of first-degree assault after police said he killed 2 and wounded more than a dozen others in a shooting spree at Marshall County High in Benton, Kentucky. So what does all this mean? I know that it has sparked discussion once again about the gun craze, and wherever you stand, it really isn't going to matter. You're just going to stand where you stand on guns and gun control. But I did notice a pretty Al Hank, who comes on the air with me on a regular basis, the dean of sports writers in America, or at least in Indiana. And what did Al say? Let me get this one up. Al said this. He said politicians have to get off their fat, overpaid asses and finally address gun control. Screw the NRA. It's the Wild West again. Hashtag NWI NRA. So there you go. Do you feel like Al Hamnick does? Politicians have to get off their asses, their fat, overpaid asses, and finally address gun control. Screw the NRA. It's the Wild West again. Anybody got an opinion on this? 219-845-1100. Now, I don't know. I don't know what you do about gun control and having automatic machine guns and stuff, or semi-automatics and stuff. I really don't know what the answer there is, but I think what we have to eventually accept is that if we are going to allow widespread distribution of guns to everyone, and we're going, oh, well, you've got restrictions. Yeah, pretty much if you want to get a gun, you can get a gun of just about any type in America. Come on. And we, I don't know what it does to a society if you say, hey, we're not going to have as many guns. Is that the beginning of, like, say, if you start to put some fairly sensible gun control laws into place, is that the beginning of basically becoming England where they don't have guns really? And if you have to be honest with yourself, it could be. It's like if you give an inch, they take a mile. And I think that's kind of the fear of gun heads. So what do you do with that? And, I basically just look at it from the sociological perspective. And, it's what I studied. You wouldn't think of it, but that's the sociology when I went to school, college, and I wanted to be a sociology professor and instead of a communications instructor. But anyways, you just got to accept at some point that if you're going to make things that available, that every so often someone's going to go off and just kill a bunch of people. That's just how it is. And we accept that. And I don't know if there's any other way around it. You don't want to become callous to it because it could be you, it could be me next. And it could be one of our schools. And it could be people we know, your kids, my kids. You know what I mean? All of that is real and the possibility is real. But what happens when this happens halfway across the country? Does it affect you? Or do you have to somehow pocket it? Do you have to somehow, to get past it, do you have to say, well, I guess this is just, it's kind of the new norm, and, I don't know anybody here, and I know they're Americans, and I feel bad about it, but I really do have to get on with my day, and the plumber's coming over. I got to meet him, and, I've got to go to work. We're having a little trouble making a mortgage payment, so, I really feel bad that a bunch of kids were killed, but, I really do have to go on, and that's, I'm just, can't take too much. That's it. And it's kind of like being in social services when you deal with people that are having addictions problems, or you are a policeman and you have to deal with people at their worst a lot. Kind of got to detach from it. And maybe as Americans, we've started to detach from mass shootings at schools where they kill a bunch of kids because we have to survive to get to the next moment. It is almost, and we probably don't want to admit to it, but it is almost to the point where we somewhat expect it. We have gone past acceptance that, hey, if we're going to have this kind of high-powered rifles, someone's going to go off. And, in years past, they might have gone off and beat up some people. They might have stabbed some people. And then they would have been subdued. And then they would be, maybe a person died or another person died. But that would be it. But now there's the capability for such destruction. And when someone has gone off and you match somebody who has gone off with the destructive capabilities of the widely available weapons, then it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it's not easy. I mean, my personal dealing with it was doing my research on it last night, reading about this Cruz guy and watching the television yesterday as they were doing it, and kind of dealing with it. A lot of these people was the weirdest thing. They came to the site, a lot of the parents, and they had their ashes on. They had already gone to church that day. It's weird, surreal situation. And the main picture, the kind of money shot on this, is an AP image, I believe. Yeah, an AP image of a blonde woman holding, comforting another woman, and they're both crying. reasonably hysterically, and one of them has just a big blotch of ashes on her forehead. So there it is. I mean, I looked at it and I go, man, I don't want to come in and walk up and down the boulevard today and yell, hey, are you Jackie Sutton? Although that was kind of funny yesterday. You guys know who Jackie Sutton is? Jackie Sutton is wanted by police right now. Jackie Sutton is the name on a Facebook account in which numerous Lake County politicians are being called names that are, according to our own Oscar Martinez, are unfair and perhaps illegally being called those names. We're trying to get to the bottom of who is Jackie Sutton. So it actually turned into a reasonably funny situation yesterday out on Indianapolis Boulevard as I was yelling at cars, are you Jackie Sutton? Are you Jackie Sutton? And then people started driving by going, hey, Judd, I'm Jackie Sutton. No, I'm Jackie Sutton. So, you got to take in these days, you got to take your minor solace of humor when it comes. Let's talk to Cousin Phyllis. Cousin Phyllis, how you taking this?
Not well.
Yeah, no kidding, isn't it? Me neither. Trying to be a big boy about it, but I'm not being that.
I know. The thing, why even say his name? And I'm sorry, why did they let him live? You've seen what almost happened in the courtroom in Michigan. And these are kids. But the person that did it, social media is around all these kids' lives. Every time you look at one of them, they got that phone steady on the phone. It starts at home. It starts at home. And you know how you grew up. I know how I grew up. That backhand across the face, these kids today, they'd be dialing 911 for child abuse. Well, I'd give them the phone to dial. And I wouldn't publicize his name at all. That's what he's living for, to be known what he did. And I want to just spit in his face. He shouldn't be alive. Those kids just started their lives. Yeah, the politicians have a lot to do with it, gun control, but you know what? That gun didn't go off by itself. It's the person that used the gun. As you well know, my niece works at a school. A lot of teachers I know, a lot of students I know. None of us are promised the next minute in our lives. Sorry. It's an ugly morning, fog, very depressing.
I think you pretty much summed it up there, Cousin Phyllis. So it is what it is. Paint the world as it is.
Go.
It's a tough morning, man. There's nothing we can do. The world moves on, but not quite yet.
That is true.
It's not quite moving on yet because it's very fresh for a lot of us, for everybody listening. All right. Hey, thanks for calling in. I don't know anything else to say, so just go to work, okay?
I am.
All right, talk to you. Hey, let's see what Brian's doing on line 599. Hey, Brian, how are you?
Hi, Jack. Good morning.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Listen, I was listening to you, and, as I said this before, not on your program, but I said this before, what does the American people expect when long ago you've taken God out of the classroom, you've taken morality out of our society and replace it with junk and with sin, and then we expect to grow a different crop. The Lord said, you're going to reap what you sow. Now, we do all of this on a daily basis. We have a governor right next door to us who passed an amendment saying that it's all right for women to have abortions, up to 9 months and making the people over there pay for it. We tell our children it's okay to do this and to do that and to do all kind of ungodly things. And guess what? We expect them to come out just as decent as can be. And that's not the case. When you put this stuff in the kids' heads and put it in there subliminally and just blatantly, that the way to take care of all your problems is with violence, and have no tolerance for someone else having an opinion, even if it does insult you, then that's what we do, is we use violence to take care of that problem. What kind of message are we sending the kids? We see it in movies, TV, in these video games. I mean, my God, what do we expect? What kind of crop do you expect out of years and years of all of that? You can't expect anything else. You get God out, it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. Now, you don't believe me? Did you hear about this 20, 30 years ago? No, you did not. It didn't exist. Did you hear about it in the 70s and in the 60s and the 50s or kids were doing this to each other? No, you did not. Why? There were a different set of moralities, even if you didn't agree with it. We didn't have this garbage. There's a reason, like the caller said beforehand. The old way that you raised kids, they got on the line, you gave them what was appropriate, the punishment that was appropriate. Okay, we don't believe in doing that because of political correctness. So I'll do this and I'll do that. Listen, I'm going to tell you one more thing, Jed. I don't mean to go on. But I was on a bus one day, and this girl, she looked like she was, I don't know, a freshman in high school. She's tearing off notices at the bus depot, the bus terminal, for elderly people and everyone else that said the buses will not be running on this day. And I looked at her, I said, why are you doing that? I said, that is up there for the benefit of the people and elderly people and handicapped. And she smarted off at me and kept smarting off at me and told me, you can't touch me. I'm a juvenile. I'll do what I want. You see, this is the type of mentality that our young people have today because there's no discipline in the home, none whatsoever. And like the caller before you said, it starts in the home. And God said this, you raise up a child the way they should go, and they will not depart from it.
Brian, thanks for your comments, man. Thanks for pretty raw stuff there, and I appreciate it. Talk to you. All right, guys, I'll be right back. AM 1230, WJOB in Hammond, AM 1230, 104.7 FM. Also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube video.
Theo's Steak and Seafood sets the standard of fine dining excellence. Delicious USDA prime meats and steaks, along with the freshest seafood in the area. Celebrate your special event with friends, family, and associates in our private dining room that can seat up to 125 people. For information, call 838-8000 or theoshighland.com. Also visit our other restaurants, Prime Steakhouse, Umi Sushi and Lounge in Crown Point, and Ted's Family Restaurant in Calumet City.
Hello, everybody. This is Raimundo Garcia speaking. You know, the busboy from El Taco Real. I'm here at WJLB to announce that I am not the most interesting man in the world. I use bar soap when I shave. I once ate a hot dog with ketchup on it. I put my jeans on one leg at a time. When I drink beer, I sometimes drink Dos Equis. Sometimes I drink Corona. Sometimes I drink margaritas, and sometimes I drink Bordeaux. I don't always eat Mexican food, but when I do, I eat at El Taco Real. At El Taco Real, you can get Dos Equis, Corona, great margaritas, as well as fine wine. So when you want great Mexican food, go to El Taco Real. I'm the busboy, Raimundo Garcia, and not the most interesting man in the world. El Taco Real is located on Hoffman Street between Calumet and Columbia Avenues in beautiful North Hammond, Indiana. We're open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 11 till 10, Friday and Saturday from 11 to 11, and Sunday from 11 till 9. Stay hungry, my friends.
Men, are you taking Viagra or Cialis for ED? ED should not stand for expensive drugs. If you're taking Viagra, talk with your doctor about Sildenafil. Now you could get the same active ingredient in Viagra in generic 20 milligram tablets for less than $2 each, saving over $30 per dose. Available at Vito's Pharmacy. Call us 219-228-7200 or visit us at vitospharmacy.com. Vito's Pharmacy.
What gets you fired up when you think about college? Explore your roar at Purdue University Northwest. With 2 exciting campuses in Hammond and Westville, more than 70 areas of study, and NCAA Division II athletics, Purdue Northwest offers it all at an excellent value. Learn more at pnw.edu and apply today. That's pnw.edu. Join the pride at Purdue Northwest.
Hey guys, I've been working pretty hard on putting together a deal that involves WJOB, the Region Sports Network, and high school basketball sectional and regional games, and also my Purdue Northwest students and some high school students. And it's been a rather lengthy road to get here, but I do believe that we're going to my goal has been to get as many high school basketball sectional and regional games on in video that we could get. And I think we have the capabilities to do that. And if we mix with Chris Ramirez and the Region Sports Network, we could get as many as we could possibly do for posterity. I mean, you don't like to lose these games that are just radio games or they don't get any coverage at all. So if anybody wants to be a part of that as a business, give Ryan a call. And I just finished the preliminary agreement yesterday. So we're going to start hitting it, try to get some more. And it's going to be very expensive to get out and do all these games. But if you want to be part of it, just give Ryan a call and say, hey, what are you guys doing? How's it working? And we got to finish putting together the packages today, but I wasn't sure it was going to get done. But I think that, we introduced Facebook Live video to the region, and it's kind of taken over the world, and it's taken over what we do here. I know some of you don't like to hear about it, but it's also one of those things that could help ensure the existence of the spirit of WJOB into the next generation. And streaming video is that. I mean, even yesterday, I couldn't go, but because I was teaching. And quite frankly, in my sports broadcasting classes, what do you think I'm teaching? I'm teaching streaming video because that's what employers want. But the Debbie Wargo went out to Albert's, and she Facebook Lived the 50th year renewal of wedding vows of Donna and Fred Halpern. And it's kind of a touching moment when Debbie, at the end of it, interviews Donna and Fred, and you just have to watch it to see why. But anyways, it kind of changed our lives around, and I thought about it. I go, man, it's kind of my responsibility to get these games on the air because it just is, and these kids like to see them, and then they like to go back on them, and whatever. And then it's also my responsibility to teach some of these new students, how to do broadcasts. So we're going to kind of do a lot together on the same thing. Purdue, IHSA, WJOB, RSN are all kind of, everybody's got a little part to it, and we should be able to get many of the games on if it goes forward. But some sponsors need to step forward to make it happen. Otherwise, it'll all just come out of my pocket again, like it has for many years on video. But anyways, it is 6:39. What time is it? Still time to go to Albert's. Maybe a late Valentine's gift. You never know. It might be somebody you're not seeing until the weekend or whatever, and you're going to give it to him or her then. And there it is. There is. If you could show some of that, can you go near the end when Debbie talks to Fred and Donna? And we'll play that right after traffic. And Donna, of course, is, well, anyways, we'll get to that in a second. 294 around the city looks pretty good. 80 going east and west looks good. The Bishop Ford is moving along well up until it's right around the Steel Bridge, and then it could be red lights and a garbage dump coming off the backside. As that's really your worst spot on the Illinois side. It's just that going into the merge on the Bishop Ford and Dan Ryan. Skyway Toll Road look good. Borman looks good. And northbound I-65 into the Borman even looks good. So does US 30. Your problem on I-65 is fairly large if you're going north or south on I-65 through southern Lake County, as in the Lowell area, starting at, say, Route 2 all the way up to Route 231. It's bad, northbound. And that is already a construction area, and then you had an accident by 231. The worst part on that I-65 are the lane shifts at the bridges. And I notice here that one of those accidents was at 231. And I want to say that might be right at the end of the construction zone. And there's like 2 or 3 bridge lane shifts that I just thought were just egregious and that ultimately are going to result in some accidents and deaths. And they got to fix that somehow. And especially when, the weather's bad and so forth. And driving through that construction area is as bad as any that you might have felt on the Borman over the years, as with those lane shifts. And part of it is people are going pretty fast through that area. So we have 2 major accidents through that construction area. I went to the Purdue game, a couple weeks ago, and we were coming back northbound. On the southbound, it was closed for a horrific accident in the construction area on I-65 there. So I got to tell you, man, if you're driving that way, just use extra caution. I understand that during road construction, there are inconveniences, and it's not as safe. But if you can, at this point, almost avoid truck and semi on that westbound toll road accident also. So that is, there's 2 accidents there. And then you have a truck, maybe a pickup truck and a semi that tangled in a pretty bad fashion on the westbound toll road, which is normally fairly free of accidents. And that is right before Klein Avenue or right at Klein Avenue going westbound. And our report said it stopped all the way back to the U.S. Steel west exit there. I forget what they call that. And what road that is. I forget the name. Starts with a B, I think. But so westbound on the toll road there is bad also. Traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. The big news on the weather this morning is a severe fog advisory, and in many areas we're reporting some of this big fog. You can see it right outside here on Indianapolis Boulevard. If you guys happen to be watching on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, or you want to, you're driving around, just take a look, and you can see behind me the just the foggy, hazy nature of it. Typically, I can tilt back right here, and I can just look down, and I can see all of the businesses northbound on I-65 and the WJOB Tower, and I don't see any of that right past People's Bank here. It really kind of just dissipates, and it's pretty foggy here. I can't imagine what it's like in some of the lower-lying areas of Cherville, Dyer, Crown Point. And so just allow some extra time anywhere you're going. I know a lot of people go out to the county, and I think you're just going to take a lot slower time on some of those side roads. All right. What do you have? We did send Debbie Wargo out to the renewal of the vows, and Sam's going to dial up the interview that Debbie did at the end of that Facebook Live video with, what is that, Oggs I got to put up, Sam? Oggs, and let's just hear it. I haven't listened to it either, so let's hear near the end of it. Go ahead, Sam. Chicka boom boom. Chicka boom boom. All right, here we go.
One more. Congratulations.
This is Debbie talking to Fred and Donna Halpern.
So I want to know, I know that having a great lady is the secret to 50 years of marriage, but what else is the secret to a great marriage?
You crazy guy. No, I don't know. Donna, what's the secret? What's the secret?
I don't know.
50 years.
One day after another, huh? Well, I will just tell you this. You see, my wife's in a wheelchair. She's had a lot of tough luck. She's really had, she's had this disease for 40 years. We've raised a lot of money for MS. I can tell you this, I don't know why. I've fallen more in love with my wife every day. I think she's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm the luckiest man in the world. So if I can just tell you that, that's just the way I feel about this girl.
Yeah, that's Fred Halpern talking about his wife, Donna. Donna's been in a wheelchair for a while. And I believe, Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, it's MS, correct? And so they're pretty open about it. And they, Debbie said it kind of gave it another level of energy when they renewed their vows yesterday. And then afterwards they came over and talked to Debbie, and you could just see it, man. It's just the husband that obviously has just fell for a woman 50 years ago, and he says she's been fighting the disease for 40 years, and he's falling more in love with her every day. You're just like, wow, that's pretty powerful stuff. So you guys can go watch that. Congratulations to Fred and Donna renewing 50 years of marriage. That is a milestone of milestones. And you know what? That came on a day right as that was happening. It's kind of a weird timing. Right as that was happening, the shooting in Florida was happening. So at least we got some pretty good news and a beautiful moment in the region. And then all of a sudden, all of our attention started going over to the Florida high school shooting. You know, high school is we're in a big push right now for sports. And one of the good things that we can turn to right now is that it has been a very good year for high school wrestling, not just here in the Calumet region, but around the state of Indiana. And we've been trying to put the kids' names out there and give them the attention that they deserve. We've been sharing over the Region Sports Network's video coverage of the sectionals, regionals, and semi-states. I don't know if they're going to be able to get the state finals done or not, but if they do, we'll certainly share that over so that you guys could see it. And one of the reasons that we've been able to bring it to you guys in the morning is Mike Reiser of IndianaMat.com. Mike's a well-known graduate of Calumet New Tech Institute, and he's on the line right now. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Hey, man, state finals, big week, huh?
Yeah, one of the most exciting weeks of the year for us, especially at Indiana Mat. We did some stuff with Region Sports last night. We're going to do a couple preview shows, highlights, I think, starting today. And then they're going to be down there, and they're going to try to do some video clips, some highlights. They can't do live coverage, but they're going to try to grab some guys for some interviews and stuff, which would be pretty cool. Yeah,
you know what you guys are doing. These guys are both Indiana Mat and RSN are doing a great job on the wrestling, and it's a sport that doesn't normally get the kind of coverage that these kids deserve, especially when you see how much work they've been doing. Many of them since they were 6, 7 years old. Hey, let's go through it, man. Let's talk about the local kids going down.
Yeah, 106. Jacob Moran, number 1 ranked in the state. He qualified. He got upset in the semifinals by another local kid, Giovanni Diaz from Wheeler, who became Wheeler's first semi-state champion. They haven't had wrestling very long at Wheeler High School, and the Diaz brothers are kind of, setting all their records. And Giovanni was their first semi-state champ, which is pretty amazing.
I heard that was an amazing match between Diaz and Moran.
It was. I mean, those guys have a lot of offense, and we can hope to see that one under the lights on Saturday night.
That would be kind of cool. And what he's talking about is could that possibly be the state finals final match? And they would be on opposite brackets, so you never know. All right, what else you got going?
So at 106, I mean, there's some really tough kids. So Indiana changed to the team title with an individual base. So Portage sent the most wrestlers from our area, and they're going to have some tough draws, like team-wise. So Jacob Moran could possibly wrestle Indianapolis Cathedral's Logan Bailey in the semifinals, and I think any time that a Portage wrestler can knock off a Brownsburg wrestler or a Cathedral wrestler, it's going to help them for their ultimate goal of being state champions.
Are they really that close?
Yeah, Portage sent 9. I want to say it sent 9. Cathedral sent 10. So Portage is right in the mix. They're top 3 for sure.
All right.
Actually, we did a preview show Tuesday night with Indiana Mat, with one of the Brownsburg coaches, and he seemed pretty stressed out. He said every time that Portage goes out there, you're going to be a fan and flow over their wrestling just because they're that good. Yeah, Portage could be the fourth, fifth team from the region to win a state title. Crown Point did. Chesterton did back in the 80s. And way back, Hammond Clark and Hammond High were state champs.
Didn't Maryville ever win it or no?
No, they were close a couple times, but we've only, for as strong as our wrestling community has been in the region, we only have a couple. Griffith was close. They were second in 2003. Portage was close a couple times, but Crown Point is the only Lake County team to ever win it. Chesterton, or outside of like the 40s, when the Clark and Hammond High, and then Chesterton in the late 80s.
All right, man. Let's go on. What do you? Let's go past 106.
We got 113 pounds. You have a couple wrestlers from the area. Ricky Hegedus from Portage, another Portage Indian. He got fourth to the semi-state. He has a pretty nice draw going forward. Didn't draw one of the real, like, absolute, like, tough Friday nights. So he's going to have Devin Casebold of Cashel High School, which they wrestled before at a summer tournament, AAU tournament, and it was pretty close. So Coach Baker's going to have to get the Ricky going, but that could be a Friday night upset, which is a 4-over-1. You have Andreas Moreno from Lowell, who's been on, like, fire. That kid's wrestling one of the best in the state. He's put a good run together. He's beat Jose Diaz the last 3 weeks. He's currently undefeated, 43-0. But he's in a tough bracket. He'll possibly have a returning state finalist in the Saturday morning quarterfinals.
Yikes.
And then you have, and that's kind of the story of a lot of these things is you got a lot of tough draws. It's just, Indiana has over 300 schools that compete, and it's single class. They dwindle it down to the top 16. So, there's a lot of tough kids that went home this weekend, but, you're going to run into some really tough matches down there, which is kind of why it's such an exciting event. You also have Jose Diaz from Wheeler. We talked about his brother Giovanni. Jose was Wheeler's first state qualifier, first state placer, and he was the runner-up. He has Tyler Conley of Avon, a freshman, 31-10, Friday night, and then he'll probably have the returning state champion Saturday morning, Brayton Curtis of Yorktown, 36-0.
Yikes! All right, move on.
120. 120, you have a couple more region guys. You have three. You have Alex Batista of Hanover Central, senior, which was really good for him to qualify. He's had some pretty tough luck. His freshman year, I think right before the state tournament, he had appendicitis, so he had to withdraw. His sophomore year, he tore his ACL, so he was out for a year. His junior year, he was winning in the ticket round. I think you guys were there also doing coverage. He got called for an illegal slam and was DQ'd. So it was good to see him qualify for the state finals. And 120 is one of those weights that's just absolutely loaded. It's like a perfect storm. Like you get 106-pounders moving up, and you get some guys that stay there. And he's got a returning state qualifier from Indianapolis Cathedral Friday night. But I'm sure, like I said, Portage will be cheering on Alex Batista. I don't know how many times you hear Portage cheering for Hanover Central, but they're going to be going for him pretty hot.
Mike, you're saying some names that I guess we're not necessarily used to hearing in the wrestling community is Hanover Central and Wheeler. Some of the power base must be moving south and east.
Yeah, Wheeler's a young program, so I know that those guys put a lot of work in with Alex Sertzis over at Calumet at RWA. So they just put in a ton of work. Hanover Central's had a nice run. They've had some really strong individuals. Andrew Howe, he's at Northwestern now, coaching. He was there. Stefan Michik's at Michigan. He was there. The Petrov brothers had a nice run. Even before that, you look back at Blanton back in the early 90s. So they've had some really strong individuals, but they're not always a strong team. They're a smaller school. But Alex Batista is a guy a lot of people are picking as a sleeper to make a deep run.
All right, man. Move on.
Well, 120, you still have Tyler Triano of Hobart. He's number 4 ranked senior. He's 32-3. This is his third trip to the state finals. Tyler will be looking for a state championship for the Hobart Brickies. He was ranked number 1 for a lot of the season. They'll have a tough quarterfinals match with Hunter Watts of Jimtown, who's ranked number 1. He beat Tyler at the Al Smith on a last-second takedown. Tyler lost to Brock Peel of Portage, who also qualified. Peel getting his second semi-state championship. for the Portage Indians. And Brock Peel is just a gamer. He's a guy that shows up. He won the semi-state last year, knocking off a guy who had defeated him. Triana had defeated him 2 weeks in a row. Brock Peel put himself in a nice position to make a deep run.
Let's go to 126.
126, you got from Portage, another Portage Indian, Talon Pointer, trying to finish off his career on top of the award stand. He's ranked number 4 in the state. He has Bryson Denny of Monrovia Friday night, number 12 ranked wrestler, who's a senior. He'll have possibly a matchup in the semifinal or the quarterfinals with Alex Vaduya of Roncalli, who's a state champ from last year. 126 is one of the craziest weights I've seen in my time going to the state finals, and I know a lot of people are saying it's one of the craziest weights they've seen ever. You have Alex Vaduya, a returning state champ from Roncalli, Caden Rooks, a returning state champ from Roncalli, Asa Garcia, a champ from 2 years ago from Avon. So you have 3 state champs in that field.
132.
Just real quick, Carolyn Kelly is going to wrestle Caden Rooks of Columbus East, and Skylar Gomez of LaPorte has Asa Garcia. So kind of tough draws for those guys, but, I mean, definitely winnable matches.
All right,
132, the region didn't qualify any wrestlers. South Bend had a pretty strong contingent, so we didn't get any wrestlers from our region, but definitely some matches of 4-2 Manzona Bryant of Culver Academy's Graham Rooks in the semis, both undefeated, 1 and 2. So that should be a pretty good match.
Chris Rumpf at 138 and some of the others?
Yeah, Chris Rumpf and Ian Dembowski, 2 region guys. Ian Valparaiso, he's a senior, his second time going down. He was 4th. But he got a pretty favorable draw. I mean, if you're picking semi-state champs, I mean, he has Connor Gimson of Jimtown. That should be a good matchup. Ian likes to roll around. Connor Gimson likes to roll around. They like to scramble. So that should be a good Friday night match, a winnable match for Ian. And Chris Rumpf also put himself in good position. He'll have the winner of number 6, Matt Lee, Evansville Mater Dei, and Braylon Harrington, number 15, North Central. But for the most part, 4, 2, everyone on the bottom side is ranked higher than they have beat Chris Rumpf. So Zach Mello has a win over him. Blake Mulkey has a win over him.
All right, let's go to, what are we at,
145.
145. Cody Crary make it or no?
He's up at 170. He jumped a little higher this year.
Okay.
So Cody did make it, but he put some weight on over the summer.
Okay, I thought you know what? I just remember him being at 145 last year. So
yeah.
We got any locals going from 145?
Yeah, Brock Ellis, number 20 in the state, of freshman from Chesterton. He qualified. He'll have an undefeated senior from Floyd Central Friday night. But, Coach Davison and Coach Joel will have those guys ready to go. And number 1 ranked Casper McIntosh of Portage. Kind of a tough quarterfinal with Jordan Slipka, number 3 of Indianapolis Cathedral. But again, you're going to have a lot of Portage, Cathedral, Portage, Brownsburg. They're going to have huge impacts on the team race. But Casper McIntosh, his dad was a Calumet grad. He passed away before Casper was in high school. He moved out to Portage and has thrived with Coach Vega and Coach Keith and that staff. And I know they're looking for him to get a state title, which would be great. Not only for Portage, but you feel like being from Calumet, a Calumet kid, getting a state title, it's a win for us too.
Yeah, the Calumet group, you guys kind of hang tight even into late adulthood. I've seen it firsthand. Let's go to 152.
152, you have DJ Washington of Portage. He was a semi-state runner-up. He was a second placer in Illinois, a state qualifier in Illinois, transferred to Portage this past year. So he has Aiden Warren of Parameridian Friday night. They wrestled. Donnell won that match. Saturday morning, he has the number 1 ranked kid in the country, so kind of a bad draw for Donnell. He has Brayton Lee of Brownsburg, who's 30-0. His coach is one of my buddies. He posted a stat. Brayton has 700 takedowns in his career against 7. He's only been taken down 7 times in his entire career.
So let's do the math. That's 100-1 in region math. That's even Calumet and Hammond Tech math.
So I heard that last week. I heard your caller Mad Mac. Is that his name? He gave a compliment. You guys were giving Calumet the business a little bit, but I appreciate the love from Mad Mac.
Hey, let's go to 160.
Just real quick. Crown Point's Noah Lamore was a semi-state champ. He put himself in good position by knocking off Donnell Washington. He could make a good run to the state finals. He could be under the lights, which Saturday night, 1 match, a single light, so it's pretty cool event.
Let's go to 160.
Yeah, you have Diego Lemley of Chesterton. His third trip, he was a state runner-up last year. He kind of got a tough quarterfinal match, too. He'll have the winner of Gleason Mappis, 42-1, and Hunter Reed, 42-1. That's a Friday night match. Both seniors, one of those guys are going to be going home. Gleason Mappis has beat Diego twice this year, so kind of a tough run. You also have Maryville's Malik Hoover, a senior first-time state qualifier. He'll be wrestling Friday night against Jack Idle-George of Carmel. And I don't know how well you followed the region wrestling back in the early 2000s. Ed Pendosky used to be the head coach at Portage. He was a great coach for those guys. Left, and he's the head coach at Carmel, so there could be a little bit of region love there between Maryville and Pendosky. And Oscar Cash of Crown Point also going his third trip to state finals. He's on the opposite side. He has Anthony Mosconi of Cathedral, and we talked about this a little bit. How many times do you hear Portage cheering for Crown Point? They'll be looking for Oscar to knock off Mosconi Friday night.
Like never.
Never.
You never hear that. So I've never heard of it. Hey, 170. Let's go.
Yeah, 170. You have Zach Fator of Hobart. He's undefeated. He's 39-0. He has Bradley Ryro from Homestead, 39-3 senior. But he's obviously been doing very well this year. He's undefeated. He had a good match in the semi-state championship with Cody Creary of Munster. Cody's 13-3, and Cody looks like he's turning on at the right time, which is going to be great for him because he can make a deep run. He's in a good bracket there, and I think he matches up stylistically with those guys pretty well.
You get along with you get along with Cody Creary's dad?
Mike, I like Mike. Mike's a great dude.
Yeah, I grew up.
Mike,
I grew up with him. He's been like wrestling since he was a little kid. Just kind of.
Yeah. Mike's a good dude. He's over there. He definitely wears his passion on his sleeve, which is you don't see a lot from all the coaches, but you can definitely tell he gets excited. He was excited for Cody to qualify, which is good. You know, Cody's last run, but he's wrestling the best I've ever seen him wrestle. I think that says a lot.
Is he the only Munster wrestler?
The only Munster wrestler to qualify. Yep.
Wow.
Ian Dembowski was the only Valparaiso Viking to qualify also.
Any Hammond kids?
Yeah, we're gonna get to it next week.
All right.
You're getting me too far ahead. And then we got Mario Trapacante from Crown Point going a second trip. Mario hit Jordan Rader of Peru, 42-1 Friday night. Coach Hawkins and Coach Laura can have him going. He'll be ready to go. He's a grinder. I really like that kid. He's a kid that's going to wrestle hard for 6 minutes. So the dynamite weapon for your radio life, at 182, you have Hammond Gavitz, Jamari Washington, first day qualifier for Hammond Gavitz since 2000. So
Jamari Washington? Really?
Yeah. Yeah, their last day qualifier, they had two in 2000, which was Kenny Kidd and Juan Alba. But Jamari punched his ticket. He was a 4 at the regional, knocked off a regional champ, punched his ticket, and ended up taking third. So he did better at the semi-state than he did in his own regional.
And that never happens, right? Or very rarely happens.
It's such a weird tournament, and it goes by days. It happened down in Evansville. Garrett Curtis, a heavyweight, was 4th in the sectional, 4th in his regional, won the semi-state. So just some guys get hot at different times. So Jamari Washington, congratulations. They said he's a great kid. He takes time to work with kids with autism, National Honor Society, plays 3 sports over there. So it's good to see him and Gavin get one.
Ryan, see if you can get him in here tomorrow. All right, go ahead.
You got K. Jared Genti from Chesterton. He won the semi-state. He's 35-1, a senior. And he's just been on a tear. He dominated the semi-state. Every time I've seen him, he just looks better. And obviously being in that room with Lucas Davison and Diego Lemley, he's definitely benefited from that. You have another local guy, Jeremy Torres from Portage. I feel like Jeremy Torres has been in high school forever. His family's been at Portage. They've had some success. He's a returning state qualifier. He has Jonathan Johnson from New Haven. And I know talking to Coach Vega, who's the coach at Portage, guys like Jeremy Torres and Drake Ura. I missed Drake at 170. Drake Ura also a state qualifier for Portage. They need those guys to score big points for them if they're going to win a title. So they're looking for Jeremy and Drake to advance there. 195, you have 2 region wrestlers. You have Arthur Fowler Jr. of Calumet. Calumet's Sloan representative. An exciting ticket round match over Heber and Ewan Donovan. He got banged up a little bit, had to forfeit his third and fourth place match, but it sounds like he's going to be ready to go Friday night. He'll have Thomas Pinola of Zionsville, 41-2. They wrestled this year. Pinola kind of beat him up a little bit at the Al Smith, but when you have a really good athlete like AJ, anything could happen. You know, that's kind of what you see in the tick around. He kind of threw a guy and pinned him, and he's just a different kind of athlete. He's got a lot of lineage. I'm sure his brother's in there working with him this week. Coach Trevino, Coach Watkins get him going. And obviously the favorite in that field is Lucas Davison. He's a returning state runner-up from Chesterton. He's 48-0. He's committed to Northwestern. He's the real deal. His dad, Keith, we talked about him last week. I would be shocked if he wasn't under the lights again at 195 pounds, and I would be even more shocked if he wasn't the champ.
You know what? It's his brother that's at Michigan, right?
Yeah, his brother's wrestling at Michigan. His brother won the 195 last year, and that'd be kind of cool for brothers to go back-to-back in the same weight.
Yeah, I got to tell you, just not being all that versed, I mean, it was really cool watching both him and his brother last year at the semi-state. That was kind of cool. You could just tell you were watching something special. Let's go to 220.
220, you have the number 2 ranked, and they did a bracket release show for the IHSAA, and I think this is one of the ones Maryville and Coach Monato was really watching because there's a monster at 220 pounds. He's the number 1 ranked kid in the country. He's 43-0 on this season. He's only lost one time in his career, which is his freshman year in the state semifinals, Mason Paris. So I know that they wanted to get Brandon in the finals with them. That was kind of Brandon Streck of Maryville was kind of their goal. He's opposite bracket of Mason Paris, which is good for him. It's kind of bad for everybody else. But Brandon's going to have a nice run for Maryville. Also, you have LaPorte's Kyle Simpkins. He's 36-13 from LaPorte. He had a nice showing at the semi-state, reversed the loss from earlier in the year. It's always good to see LaPorte qualify. They got 2 this year, so you don't always get to see a lot of LaPorte guys, but it was good to see Kyle Simpkins get qualified.
So so Brendan Streck out of Maryville, it's possible he meets this Mason Paris in the final?
Yeah, Mason Paris, he recently committed to Michigan, so he'll be wrestling with Andrew Davison out there. He's the real deal. That kid's a different type of animal, like once-in-a-generation type talent coming out of Indiana.
Wow, that would be kind of cool. I would like to see some of that highlights if that happens. All right, let's go to 285.
285, you had probably one of the best matches at the East Chicago Semi-State with the championship at 285, and I have a pet peeve of people leaving. Everyone wants to beat the traffic to get home. But you had number 1 and number 2 wrestling at East Chicago, and it was a really good match where Chesterton's Eli Picorni remained undefeated and won. He was the number 2 ranked wrestler. He was a junior, and he put on a good show. I think he put himself in a good spot. I think that Isaiah McWilliams and Eli Picorni could be the state championship match this weekend. Eli Picorni, kind of a tough draw Friday night. He got Dakota Alt of Fort Wayne Northside. He's 25-2. He's the number 3 ranked wrestler. He got his first 2 losses at the semi-state. I know we talked about Anthony Atria. He lost his mom after the Lake County tournament. Dakota Alt lost his father before the sectional, and it's kind of been wrestling with a heavy heart. I'm sure it's tough to get up, and dealing with that, not being in a competitive atmosphere is very tough. So my heart goes out to that kid. But Eli Picorni put himself in a good position to make a run at the state championship.
We're talking to Mike Reiser, IndianaMat.com, and he's also done some work with Region Sports on bringing wrestling and trying to get these kids the coverage they deserve. The state finals are this weekend down in Indianapolis. Hey, Mike, before you go, explain what it's like when they just have the lights on the one mat right at the end. What's that feel like?
Oh, man, I didn't wrestle in it, but I've been there. This is every year since 1999. So the first year I ever went, I had a teammate, Thurman Stone. He made a run. He was in the state championship match and won. So I just assumed that that's how everyone did it. So you get 19 or 15,000 people, and everyone's on the edge of their seat, and they're all wanting the one thing. It's just a little excitement that's crazy. And we were talking with Nathan Laird of Region Sports. I don't go to the football state final. I don't go to any other state finals. But wrestling, you wrestle with a lot of these guys year-round on Team Indiana or all this other stuff. You go to national tournaments, and it becomes such a tight-knit community. You know everybody. Robert Falkins, the IHSAA director that covers wrestling, says that like the Indiana Wrestling State Finals is like one big dysfunctional family reunion where everyone knows everybody, and that's how it is. It's really cool. And Indiana Man has done a nice job of getting the coverage, and you get a lot more video. And now Region Sports just came on also, so you're getting to see all these kids in action. So you're not, if you're down in Evansville, you could see a Manzona Bryant from the Culver Academy, so you would never see, and you're like, wow, this kid's really exciting. That's maybe something I want to watch.
All right, there it is. Anything else, Mike?
Just, I appreciate it. Joe Reitz kind of lined this up, and I talked to him a little bit last night. He got me in contact with you guys, and I appreciate him doing that for me because, I like you kind of said before, I don't feel like wrestling gets the coverage that, some of the other sports do, and it's good to get these guys' name out there, especially if, this could be all you ever do. You could only, maybe if, you get talked about Jamari Washington, hopefully he's wrestling in college. I know Coach Bedoya is out at Calumet College. I think that'd be a great pickup for those guys. But if he doesn't, this could be the highlight of his wrestling career, and I think it should be recognized, like him being a state qualifier for Gavitt, the first one in 18 years. And I think that, I appreciate you guys letting me come on and do this because I think it gives me a platform to help kids be recognized.
There it is. Mike Rise, you're doing a great job, dude. You're pulling names out of your hat. That's pretty good. That's pretty deep knowledge of a topic. And believe me, it's appreciated around here. Thanks a lot, Mike. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I
Talk
appreciate you guys having me on.
There you go. We'll sum it up next week, especially on any of the state champions. And Ryan has talked about if any of them are real close up here, maybe getting some of them on the morning show, as we have been remiss in the past in not covering wrestling to its fullest extent. And I know that some of you are like, man, if you're not into wrestling, you're like, hey, I hope this guy finishes soon. But you know what? It's all different sports. It's not just basketball and football and so forth. It's our responsibility here at WJOB to make sure that, we kind of even it out. Let's talk to Jamie on line 599. Jamie, what do you think?
Hey, Jim, good morning. Thank you again for all the wrestling coverage you've been doing lately. But, that Jamari Washington, I believe he also is the valedictorian for Gavitt this year. So he is one outstanding kid from what I hear.
Well, I didn't know anything about this. It could be one of the kids that's walking by the windows here every day, and we just don't know it because I know there's a 6th grade kid that is one of the wrestlers, so they evidently maybe.
I know him too. He walks by every morning. I actually give him a ride home. He plays football with my son. He's a little guy though. He's a middle schooler still. But they got a great middle school program over there at Gavitt. I think they won the city like the last at least 10 years, I think. So Chris Soika does a great job over there with the youth program for Gavitt. I mean,
I just wonder, when these kids are going, they're the only ones from their school going to the state finals. I mean, who do they practice with?
You usually have a workout. You have a workout buddy or two. When I went down, I had me and another guy. Me and my 103-pounder went. You usually have. Actually, our workout buddy was a younger guy by the name of Alex Coriano, and he ended up going down there and taking second a couple years later. Went and wrestled for Purdue, coached at Stanford, represented the Puerto Rican national team for the Olympics. And he's a Morton grad, and he's still out in California helping. Actually, he invented the MMA, one of the MMA cups for the MMA fighting.
Who's this guy? Who?
Alex Coriano from Hammond Morton.
All right, I've heard the name. I didn't know the MMA connection. All right, man.
He's a Morton grad. He's doing very well for him. So I think he's helping out with Stanford's program now. He's one of those guys I'm trying to get into the Hammond Hall of Fame that's been overlooked for way too long.
All right, well, you got to press, man. Sometimes they don't take it right away. They go in a second year. All right, thanks a lot. Talk to you, Jamie.
All right, we'll see ya.
Ryan, you got the lines lighting up about wrestling right now. We're going to have to play a couple spots. We'll be right back. AM 1230, WJOB, and 104.7 FM, the voice and face of the region.
This is Pete Corellis with Corellis Roofing. Over the past months, you've heard on WJOB some of the names of the top roofing and sheet metal craftsmen our industry has to offer. Because of these dedicated craftsmen and many others at Corellis Roofing, we have been fortunate to have had the opportunity to continue to grow our business. We are currently looking for roofing installers at all experience levels. If you are interested in a career, not just a job, if you're interested in medical benefits, not just for you, but for your entire family, if you're interested in an excellent retirement plan, then Corellis Roofing could be the company for you. All applicants must pass a pre-employment drug test and random drug testing throughout their employment. If you are interested in becoming a member of our team, please apply online at Corellis.com or in person at 1333 169th Street in Hammond. Thank you.
Ironworkers Local 395, through their contractor employers, the Northwest Indiana Contractors Association, are the workers you see building Northwest Indiana. They are the craftsmen building your schools, hospitals, malls, steel mills, and manufacturing plants. They support local charities, including Tradewinds and Chasing Dreams, and they coach your kids after work and on the weekend. They live, work, and contribute to all of our local communities' economic growth. To find out more about these organizations, visit ironworkers395.com or nwicontractors.org.
Everything Italian. That's what you get at Giuseppe's Restaurant in Cherville.
Hi, this is Joe from Giuseppe's Everything Italian. Here today to let our friends and listeners to WJOB know about the few things that we have added. We offer catering now, catering for your party, family event, or even for businesses. Just give us a call at Giuseppe's at 322-0011 and ask for Joe. Thank you.
Giuseppe's Everything Italian is located at 1000 Eagle Ridge Drive in Cherville, just north of the Showplace Theaters. 219-322-0011 or visit giuseppespizza.net.
If you've been arrested or convicted of a crime in the state of Indiana, listen up. You need legal counsel. Doesn't it make sense to call an attorney who not only knows the law, but who knows the system? I'm Nicole Bennett, a former deputy Lake County prosecutor. I do know the system and how to help you with your criminal case. From traffic tickets to cleaning up your driving record to obtaining specialized driving privileges under the new 2015 Indiana law and misdemeanor and felony charges. And as many of you have experienced, I can even have your criminal record erased. Call me at Westland and Bennett in Cherville, 219-440-7550. Again, 219-440-7550.
Flu season got you down? Just left the doctor's office and don't want to wait in line at the pharmacy? Hi, this is Ellen from Quick Scripts Pharmacy inviting you to stop into any one of our 3 locations to experience our fast and friendly service to get you out the door and feeling better faster. We accept all insurances, have free local delivery, on-site one-on-one pharmacist consultations, and competitive pricing on generics and over-the-counter products. We are located in downtown Lansing, Illinois, downtown Griffith, Indiana, and our newest location off of 231 in Parrish Avenue in St. John, Indiana. Stop in today.
All you wrestlers, you want to watch that, go to the Facebook Live or YouTube or Twitter videos, and you'll be able to go through the entire list that Mike Reiser just went through. And we had about 4 calls of people calling into Ryan on what the website is for that state finals. I'm looking at it right now. It's called IndianaMat.com. And, you just can't. They got a whole state finals information. They've got all the rankings, and it's pretty good stuff if you're into wrestling. And I know there's a lot of wrestlers that like used to wrestle, or the family used to be into wrestling, and then you kind of lose touch with it. You know what? There's a lot of information now out there that you can kind of keep an eye on it. And our buddies at Region Sports are going to follow it pretty closely. I don't think they can do it live. They're going to be able to do some highlights. And I'll just talk about that a little bit. Coming up for the boys sectionals in basketball and regionals, we are teaming up together to get as many of the local games on as we can. The market really isn't there to really support it yet, to make any real money on it. Just businesses say sometimes you got to go in and explain what Facebook Live is. But if you already know what it is and you want to be part of it, we're going to have a big package where you can be part of Facebook Live video of the games on both of our networks, and we're trying to get as many of the teams on as we can. And then also the Big Ten tournament and Purdue and IU going through any tournaments they may go through is also included in that. It's really about way too cheap, but we would like to sell a number of those just to kind of cover our costs on what we're trying to do here. And that is expand the coverage in video for high school athletes. And it's pretty simple. And we've been able to do it so far, but it needs your support. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. All right, what do you have in terms of the traffic? 294 around the city is moving along okay up until Cicero, and then it gets a little heavy going into the Stevenson. 80 going east and west, so moving along well. Bishop Ford has two bad spots. One is from Sibley Sibley to Dalton Avenue, or Sibley to the Steel Bridge. And then on the backside of the Steel Bridge, 115th to 103rd. It's been worse, but, it's already kind of slow, and part of that is the fog. Skyway and the toll road are pretty good except for one spot. Westbound on the toll road going into Klein Avenue, pretty bad accident involving a semi. That still has a backup on the toll road going into Klein Avenue. Pretty good one. And Borman, believe it or not, it's moving along pretty well. And US 30 and Klein Avenue itself are moving along well. The worst part is if you want to go to Indianapolis or to Lafayette or Rensselaer or to Florida, you are going to get on I-65 and you're going to get to Route 231 and then almost all the way to Route 10. It is stop and go. It might even be closed. Right lane is closed. If you haven't driven that area in a while, it's actually only 2 lanes. So if the right lane's closed, it's only 1 lane that's open, and that is backing up for about 15 miles. So good luck with that. Sorry about that. If you're going south, you can maybe take, if you were going now south right now, I would take 41 down to Route 10, get on at Route 10 on I-65, and then kick it up that way. All right, there it is in traffic, brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. This part of the 7 o'clock hour is brought to you by RushRadioSurgery.com. They eventually, a lot of people get a cancer diagnosis. You don't know where to turn. One of the places to do that is RushRadioSurgery.com. They're right on the west side of Chicago, and if you schedule your appointments at the right time, a lot of this traffic doesn't even matter. All right, guys, what time is it? It's 7:22 in the Calumet region. Time to go to Albert. Let's talk to Jim on Local 599 phone line. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing real good, Jed. I just wanted to call in and say what a good job you guys are doing in Region Sports, getting wrestling out there. Mike Reiser was one of my wrestlers at Calumet about 17, 18 years ago, and he's done such a fine job at taking all of that wrestling minutia that is between his ears. He was one of those kids that read everything, got on the internet, downloaded. He knew everybody everywhere involved in wrestling, and he found a way to make something out of it and do something that he loves at the same time. And he's just been a credit to our school and his family, and I just wanted to throw kudos out there to Mike Reiser this morning.
He really he's doing a great job. I kind of rib him for his Calumet connections. But
hey,
that
man, you're stepping on toes now.
I know that. Jim, how long were you coach there?
I am the head coach currently. I've been here. This is my 33rd year.
That's what I thought. I know who you are. And, you got to be pretty proud of AJ going down, huh?
Yeah, and the thing about AJ is I coached his father 20-some-odd years ago. So when I start getting grandchildren in the room, I think it's going to be time to hang the old shoes up. In fact, it's been time to hang the shoes up a long time, but it'll be time to hang the whistle up.
Hey, so you only got AJ going down. How do you practice him on a week when basically everybody else is done?
Well, when I was a senior, my coach brought 4 or 5 fresh guys in there, and I got my butt kicked all week, and I don't think that's the way to do it for sure. But we tell our guys, hey, you're going to all be at practice till the last dog is dead. And we start, there's some guys that play spring sports that are doing conditioning, and they're little guys because he's a 195. We'll let the little guys kind of wander off to baseball practice or track practice or whatever. We keep a core of about 3 or 4 guys in there that were his workout partners, and Coach Trevino's still the toughest guy in the room. He goes with him, and AJ fortunately has 5 brothers that wrestled, and 2 or 3 of them have been in this week and gone with him. So we've always never had a workout problem with him because he's always got a couple built in his family.
Reiser mentioned a couple times Searchus and RWA over at Calumet. What's he talking about?
RWA is a wrestling academy that Alex Searchus and Bill Hawkins from Crown Point got started. Actually, Eddie Pendofsky, who's down at Carmel now, he left Portage and went to Carmel, and he started an academy in central Indiana called CIA. And RWA was kind of an offshoot of that. And it's grown and it's split into Bulldog Wrestling. Bill Hawkins and Vince Sessa are coaching at Crown Point now, and they actually have started an academy down there. RWA is Region Wrestling Academy. Alex Surtsus, who actually a lot of people don't know, started wrestling in Calumet's wrestling room when he was a little bitty tyke. Jimmy Coleus over at Munster didn't have a club yet, and he called me about this kid, and I didn't know anything about Surtsus. I knew he had an uncle named George who graduated in about the mid-'80s, and I didn't know Marino at the time. And this kid came in the room as a little bitty tyke and started breaking people. And I actually had to uninvite Alex because we had a little pee-wee club at the time, our little elementary program. And Alex had such a natural talent for the sport. And he was like a sponge. He just picked up technique and had a tremendous mat savvy and just tremendous physical awareness of where he was. He was a mile ahead of kids well before his time. And they ended up eventually getting a club going, and he ended up going to Griffith, where he had an unbeaten high school career, and he had a younger brother who when the family moved to Crown Point, went down there and won 4 state championships. So it's just been a tremendous family. But RWA is an academy, and there's a lot of kids in there that are starting wrestling for the first time, but there's also a lot of very high level. This kid's coming in here from Michigan, Illinois, and they began it in Hanover Central's room, and they kind of moved farther north so the Chicagoland kids could get a little closer. They approached us and asked us, about using our facility, and we've made a way for them to utilize our wrestling facility. They've kind of partnered with us and helped us, buy mat tape or, cover a table at our big tournament in December. And our kids get access to RWA for free, which, this is a very lucrative business nowadays, this academy business. Our kids get to go in there. That's kind of the rent that gets paid for Calumet kids to have access to it.
There it is. Coach, thanks for calling in. I got to tell you, I know there's a lot of attention given to Marino and his kids, but the baddest ass in the neighborhood, and I grew up right around the corner from the Surtsuses, was Gus Surtsus, which is Marino's slightly older brother.
Yeah.
He was the mean one. All right, man. I'll talk to you. I got to move on. Thanks a lot, Coach. 727 in the Calumet region. Ryan's got to promo something before we bring in another state wrestler, and that is David Gladish, believe it or not, was a state wrestler. Hey, what do you got? All right, go ahead.
Release given to us. 2018 Ethics Summit is Thursday, March 29th of 2018 at the Avalon Manor, 3555 US 30 Maryville, Indiana. 8 o'clock registration and hot breakfast. 8:30. They're going to have a program, keynote, and case study discussion, and you'll be out of there by 11:30. The keynote speaker this year is Reverend David Link from Notre Dame's Law School. Reservations are due by Friday, March 16th. Reservations at sharedethics.com or 219-706-9018. This one comes from Cal Bellamy. 2018 Ethics Summit, Thursday, March 29th of 2018, 8 a.m. until 11:30 at the Avalon Manor, 3555, 219-706-9018. They ask that we share with others.
We will share it, and we will promo it, but if Cal Bellamy stops by or calls me to ask me to go to this, I ain't here. Hey, guys, thanks a lot, Ryan. Dave Gladish joins us from time to time, and we talk about stuff that's going on in the law world. It's a tough day. Another big shooting, a lot of dead people in Florida. And, I almost want to thank these wrestling heads for kind of taking our minds off of it, because there's a lot of really good wrestling stories. You heard about the guy lost his mom. You heard A.J. Fowler going for Calumet. You got Jamari going out of Gavitt. Got a lot of good storylines going down I-65 this weekend, and we're going to try to follow them and go into next week and get some more coverage of the wrestling. So thanks a lot to these guys. We needed it today. You know it, and I know it. Gladish up next.
Eduardo's Natural Pizza in Munster has built a reputation for serving the finest Chicago-style stuffed pizza, loaded with fresh and natural ingredients. Not interested in stuffed pizza? Eduardo's has the best thin crust pizza, appetizers, salads, pastas, and more. Pick up a half-baked pizza from Eduardo's to take home and bake at your convenience. It's the perfect solution for those hectic nights. Eduardo's is located at 7920 Calumet Avenue in Munster. Dine in or carry out by calling 836-2010.
Ogren Insurance has been serving the area since 1947 and provides insurance for life, home, auto, business, and more. If you're looking for one-on-one service, the best rates, knowledge, and experience, Ogren Insurance is your agency. Our number one goal is to provide you with the coverage you need at the most competitive price. To learn about the insurance solutions and services we offer in Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, call 219-933-0076 or see our website, ogreninsurance.com. Ogren Insurance, 6929 Holman Avenue in Hammond. Accidents happen. Be protected with Ogren Insurance.
Laborers Local 41 proudly represents the hardworking, highly skilled, and expertly trained men and women who work to maintain our local streets and highways, protect and remediate our environment, and build and renovate our schools. Laborers Local 41, investing today for a better Indiana tomorrow.
When I received the news that I had cancer, I was terrified. There were so many treatment options. That's why I called Rush Radiosurgery for a second opinion. Rush Radiosurgery in Chicago has a dedicated and caring team of physicians specializing in leading-edge technology to treat my cancer without surgery in less than 5 outpatient visits. If you want a second opinion for your cancer treatment, call Rush Radiosurgery 312-942-4600 or visit their website, rushradiosurgery.com.
Hey guys, let's hit traffic right now. All right, let's start right here locally. Traffic lights are flashing red at Indianapolis Boulevard and Ridge Road. Thanks to Mike from Cedar Lake for bringing that into us. Gladys, you just drove through there. What did you see?
It was very backed up prior to even Ridge Road. So actually I took the side roads to get to WJOB on the boulevard, but going northbound towards 8094, I just had to get off the road because it wasn't moving.
All right, guys, 294 around the cities actually is moving. There is not an accident in downtown Joliet on I-80, which is odd because there's almost one every day. Coming up the gut of the Southland, up to Bishop Ford, it's been kind of bad today. Watch the Bishop Ford. You got a Sibley all the way up to the base of the Steel Bridge. Then it opens up a little bit over the bridge, and then you got bad traffic 120th on up through 103rd. And it's kind of slow on the southern end of the Dan Ryan, so expect some delays if you're going up to Bishop Ford, Dan Ryan. Also expect some delays if you're going westbound on the Indiana Toll Road. The Skyway looks good, but westbound on the Indiana Toll Road had a big bad accident involving a semi and a pickup truck, and that was on the toll road right before Klein Avenue going westbound. That is a pretty big backup there. The Borman actually looks pretty good, as does this northbound I-65 is actually moving along pretty well. Your biggest backup in the entire Chicago area is southbound on I-65. There's an accident in that construction zone south of Route 2 before Route 10, and that is backing things up as I use the measurer here for about 14 miles. So it's down to one lane, what it looks like. It's already 2 lanes, so now it's the 1 lane, and that's pretty bad. If you are leaving and you got to go south, go down 41 right now and get on at Route 10. You should be okay. And traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. Let's take a look at what's going on in the weather. Brought to you by Laborers Local 41, of which I am, of course, a proud alum of that fine union. We got some dense fog this morning, and we have some rain coming our way, but a high in the mid-40s. It feels nice to not just be freezing your butt off every moment of the day when you're walking outside. And then, but you might get that tomorrow. So a lot of this stuff's going to freeze, kind of flash freeze tonight. Once it goes under 32, it's going to go all the way to about 10 degrees tomorrow night. So you're going to flash freeze all of this water that's laying around. And then it should, hopefully on Saturday when it gets up to around 40 degrees, it should start to melt again by Sunday. Sunshine and partly sunny and a high in the mid-40s on Sunday. So it should be a nice day. Dave Gladys, sports certified attorney, comes in and we hit a number of the law topics around here. And we've got plenty of them to hit. But first of all, Dave Gladys was a semi-state wrestler for Munster 2 years in a row. And, the fraternity is small, Gladys. It really is. You get to know everybody in it after a while. And that was one of the things we've been pushing here is that we have to get more coverage of not just the main sports, but some of the off sports. And wrestling is certainly one that has been ignored for a long time.
It's a tough sport. It gives you, a team atmosphere, but also you have individual achievements as well. So there's points scored both for the individual and however you perform, whether your team wins in those dual matches. So I think it's a great sport. provides a lot of toughness. You're going to play football. I think wrestling is also a good connecting sport, help you with tackling and also with physical fitness. So anybody that wants to have their kids, develop maybe a bit of an attitude and a little toughness and not afraid to take things head on, wrestling's a great sport.
Jack Forrett's on his way. He's going into wrestling. Hey, listen, Dave Gladish, we got to mention it. It is it's on everybody's heart right now, pulling and tugging at it. Another mass shooting yesterday in Parkland, Florida. And this one, 17 dead, maybe 20 injured. Former student comes back and just starts shooting the place up with an AR-15. And country's reeling again.
Well, this is a little bit different, in my opinion, than many of the other shootings. In this instance, we have a shooting where 17 have died thus far, and it's considered, I think, a top 10 shooting in reference to the number of deaths. The problem we have in this instance was that they foresaw this for quite a period of time. The student was kicked out of school. He had posted a lot of violent images on Facebook, talked about shooting people. He was described as creepy by many individuals that have been interviewed thus far. And the school was very, very concerned about him. He was not allowed on campus. If they saw him with a backpack, they would confront him because they were concerned about him having a weapon. So this was something that it seemed that the school tried to do all that was within their power to do, but what can you do until the person acts? I mean, you cannot put them in jail for what everyone thinks this individual is going to do, and they were right in this instance. So how do you stop somebody who's willing to commit the ultimate acts of violence and doesn't care what happens to them?
Yeah, that's a tough one. You hear this, and even this high school, from what the commentary was, has been doing the drills and has been very vigilant,
very proactive,
and very proactive in active shooter drills. And they are many of the analysts are saying that it could have been a lot worse had they not had the active shooter drills of the past. They may have saved a lot of lives.
And they knew that this individual had a lot of issues, a lot of anger issues, had foretold what he was going to do in reference to depicting the photos on Facebook and so forth and threatening other students. So it seems that the school tried to do all they could. What are you going to do? You're going to have 3 or 4 or 5, heavily armed police officers at each school? Is that realistic? I mean, most schools have an officer there. I don't know if there's an officer stationed at the school or not. I didn't read that thus far, but it's almost that situation where you have to have an officer that is ready to go to battle every day at school, just because this can happen anywhere, small town, big town, large cities, doesn't matter. We've had shootings at all of these now. So out in California, in the Midwest,
Kentucky was a recent one. Well, it's a tough day. And typically after one of these shootings, I don't go out and stand out on Indianapolis Boulevard and just make jokes. It just doesn't feel right. And certainly that was the point today. If you guys didn't see it, thanks a lot to the Ironworkers Local 395. I think they pretty much want me to be out there as many times as I can. Just once in a while, it's just not right. And Ryan Walsh and Sam Michaels start off the show today. Ryan? Tri Creek schools are closed because of the fog? Yeah, it's pretty foggy right now, folks, and that is supposed to last till about 10 a.m. Gladys, let's move on to something that may not be I guess, just headline news, but around here it can be, and that has to do with water.
Well, the Supreme Court came down with a decision yesterday which had not been dealt with as of yesterday, I think. And this dealt with, where does a property owner's property line end in reference to Lake Michigan? Well, the Supreme Court in a 4-0 decision, which is nice when you have a 4-0 decision because that means there's real guidance here. This is the law of the land. It's not going to change. That the determination as to where property for the state ends and where the property owner's rights end meets at the high water mark. So wherever the high water mark is, that is state land, and it is available to the public, and property owners cannot stop individuals within the state of Indiana from having access to that property. So with this decision, this also comes out of, I think didn't you have some property at one point in time in Long Beach?
I did, in Michigan City, yeah.
And this situation arose out of that. There was a dispute between property owners having access to the land and being able to make corrections to seawalls and so forth. And the Supreme Court says, hey, since Indiana's statehood in 1816 and continuously held in trust for all Hoosiers since that point in time, that we've always said that the land under the water and up to the high water mark is land for Hoosiers. So this settles this area of law. The Supreme Court has spoken, and now hopefully these individuals can move on in reference to knowing where they can control property and where they can't control property.
All right, so this actually is pretty important to specific individuals who live along Lake Michigan and to some of the municipalities that have some property there. But I guess the first question would be, there are areas of the lakeshore where it's posted it's private property. You can't walk on that stretch of beach. Does this change any of that?
Well, I don't know if that was addressed in reference to that, but clearly, if you're saying you can't walk on this stretch of beach, that's going to be found to be a non-viable law, it to be unconstitutional in reference to this determination, because you are not allowing access to property which is owned by the state. So if you say you cannot walk on this beach, if somebody wants to challenge that, they're going to be able to challenge it, because this Supreme Court decision, again, 4-0, says, hey, property owners, your property line stops at the high water mark. So if you're walking along the wet sands of Lake Michigan, I don't think that they can do anything to stop you from transversing any portion of Lake Michigan in that area that you want.
So more specifically, if you were to set your blanket below the high water mark, that too would be state property technically.
Correct.
That's pretty interesting. And
a lot of states, when we were in law school, this was something that was discussed about water rights and so forth, upstream versus downstream. But also, especially in California, the law has been for a long period of time that you cannot deny access to the public to the beaches. We've had cases, I think I've talked about 2 years ago, where the owner of, I think it was Oracle, if I'm not mistaken, he bought up a bunch of property and tried to make an exclusive beach area, which was very beautiful, and wanted to make it for him and his friends and so forth and exclude the public, and he posted signage. And California, again, ruled like Indiana has, saying, hey, that's public land. You cannot deny access to the water. So, it's important value in this area that we be allowed to have access to our beaches. It's one great way for tourism to blossom by having people along the beaches. And if we have a few wealthy property owners saying, well, you can't come on my beaches, well, that's just not the law.
He's Dave Gladys. Did we lose Facebook Live for a moment? Oh, we're still going? Okay, let's take a couple of questions here. And let's go to George on local 599 phone line. George, how you been, man?
All right. I was curious about that decision. It doesn't really specify how much of the beach sands from the rear of the property or the front of the property, depending on how the home is faced, down to the shoreline. Is that also state property, or are those beach sands the immediate, right out of the back property, I guess, immediate property line to the shore? Who owns that? That's a bit ambiguous, because who knows where the high water mark is?
Well, they say wherever the high water mark is, or traditionally is, that's how far the state property goes. Because with the people that were arguing for a greater amount of limitations to access on their property, they're saying it was to the water's edge. So wherever they felt the water's edge was, that was their property, and nobody could go on their beach.
Right,
and
I understand that. What I also wanted to add was, if they appeal, two things. If they appeal the decision to the U.S. Supreme Court, does Chief Justice John Roberts, have to recuse himself? Because he's an ex-Long Beach resident, and that's all his neighbors there. Lastly, that decision also said that the state could convey that property to the Long Beach to the Long Beach residents.
Correct.
Given the lobbying power that these people would have in Long Beach, do you foresee that this is a distinct possibility?
I would say no. People are not going to. That's bad legislation, in my opinion, because you're gonna grant to a few wealthy individuals the right to exclude.
Trump, man. Are you kidding me? That's what I'm really afraid of. That's why I mean, in theory, I agree with you, Dave, but I mean, going downstate there, special interest legislation is the order of the day. Anyway, thanks, sir.
But George has made a great comment about judges recusing themselves if they potentially have a conflict. And that happened in this instance with Justice Jeffrey Slaughter. He's from Crown Point, and he's on the Supreme Court, and he recused himself because he has members who own property in Ogden Dunes, and he thought that that could be a conflict. So George is right. When judges have the mere appearance of an impropriety or a conflict can arise from them being involved in the decision making, the judge is expected to recuse themselves. Doesn't mean that if they got involved in it is actually wrong, just the mere appearance, because we want members of society to respect judicial determinations and do not want to question them because there might be some slight interest that the justice had in the outcome of the litigation.
Let's go to Dave from Gary. Dave, this has to affect you a little bit too, huh?
Absolutely, and I'm glad. Hi, Dave. I'm glad they used the precedent of the high water mark. The lake is constantly evolving. It's 3 feet higher than it was 4 years ago. And if you equate 3 feet, if you do the geometry, that is about 15 feet of actual beach. I was anxious for this ruling, and I'm glad they used the high water mark because that's an established, that literally is the bar that has been set. And just because the beach is constantly changing. I mean, every day. And talking to some people that were part of the Port Authority in Portage. So we were all really paying attention to this case, and I know the individual in Long Beach that started this, that felt that beach was theirs, has not been a resident for over 5 years. So this has continued even after that person has moved away. So it's nice to see. I'm glad. I'm very happy with this decision. It is, and to answer George's question, you have an established beach with a high water mark, and where I live is protected Indiana National Lakeshore. It's all protected. Most of the homes you see, I can only tell you the Miller portion of Gary. There is an established property line, and then the protected lakeshore is the easement between the high water mark. So all those so the dunes and the prairie grass, that is also protected through the state of Indiana. That's all protected lakeshore. So there is a property line. I have a marker on mine. Beyond that is the dune, which is about 50 yards deep. Then you have the established water line, which someone's gone out there over the last few months, and there's literally sticks in the sand, holes in the sand marking it. So we're all very happy that anyone that lives on or close to the lakefront of this decision. So
all right, man.
Thanks for covering it.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Well, there's going to be some people that are not going to be happy because they're going to say, well, now I'm going to have people walking on my property. They're going to come over here. They're going to leave potentially litter behind. There's some people that are very upset by this decision. And I think there is a lot of money at issue here because does it diminish the value of your property when you do not have exclusive domain over a very nice beach? So, that's a really important question.
I don't know, all these scumbags walking past my house.
Get off my lawn.
Let's go to Dennis. Dennis, what do you think?
Well, it's a pretty slam dunk decision when you think of it as a few rich people thinking they own the whole world like they like to. So we're all, rallying around that one. What I'm interested is if I go out and walk the shores of BP this afternoon, security will be all over me. The Whiting cops will, charge me with trespassing and stuff like that. I'm interested to see how that plays out because you get someone like BP throwing their money and weight down there at the legislature. I think you'll get some of those special interests conveyed from the state to certain people, and then we'll see some movement along that line.
You know what? That's a good point because and even think about ArcelorMittal. It sticks way out there. I don't know. Sure. That's man-made land. Maybe that's different, but technically there's beach right on it, and can you walk on between the water and the high water mark?
Well, according to this ruling now, you should be able to because it says that all of those interests were conveyed by the federal government to the state of Indiana, and they remain in their interests indefinitely. So you're going to see some refinement, I think, of that legislation here along the way because big money's going to get down there and say, we don't want people trespassing on our industrial operations, which is may be a good idea, but then, you start connecting dots. You give those special interests to one group, even though they're a business, other people start piling in on top of those decisions.
Good point, man. I didn't even thought of that.
And they
Thanks
can
a
make
lot.
arguments that maybe because of the sensitive nature of the business or because of potential for terrorism, let's say with Amoco, there could be certain instances where they carve out special legislation which protects certain businesses. But again, it's a slippery slope. Like what he was just pointing to is, now we let these industries have it. Now, can this casino have that? Can this individual who wants to build a mammoth hotel on beach property or near beach property, can they segregate that area and have it exclusively for their patrons? It'll be very interesting to see how this plays out now that this is set.
Board certified attorney Dave Gladish is with us, and we're going to go on to a couple of other law topics. Now, Gladish, do you have some? Can I throw you a curveball or no?
Sure.
Do you know who Jackie Sutton is?
I do not know who Jackie Sutton is. I've heard you talk about it for the last day and a half, and it's interesting. I've got like 1,800 Facebook friends. I don't know if Jackie Sutton's on there or not. I'm going to go back and look when I go back to the office to see if Jackie Sutton is one of my friends or not. But I've read the article in the paper. I've heard what the sheriff has had to say about this potentially could be a criminal act because they're using a synthetic name to defraud people. I'm not sure that that's going to reach criminality, and I don't know if the state police should be involved in using their resources to investigate whether somebody put a fake profile on Facebook and called somebody names. If the sheriff or whoever else wants to litigate that issue and say that they've been defamed, while they can file a lawsuit, get access to that user's name and track down who actually posted something. If you're accused of a criminal activity, there's several, de facto statements which will expose you to civil liability. So they can actually take care of that in a civil manner and without using the powers of the Indiana State Police. So I think that would be the proper venue to have this hashed out. If somebody has said something to you which defames you de facto, I would file my lawsuit and go find out who it is and make them pay monetary damages. I think that is a very effective way to stop people from posting things that they should not be posting, that they know are untrue, or that they lead people to hold you in a false light. That's why I think they should go with this. Getting the state police involved, I don't think is the appropriate way to go about this.
Dave Gladys is talking about just another chapter in the saga of Lake County politics, and that is that Oscar Martinez, the current sheriff, and the Lake County prosecutor, Bernie Carter, are asking the Indiana State Police to look into who is behind a Facebook account by the name of Jackie Sutton. Evidently, there are some comments on there that are not very nice about some Lake County politicians, and they want to get to the bottom of who is behind that and maybe have some criminal charges. There's been a lot of people that have called in and just talking around the area, wondering why we would get the Indiana State Police involved into a local Lake County politics matter. But then again, I mean, if it goes far enough, then do we get into possible criminal charges?
Well, we've always got the issues of the First Amendment versus somebody writing something or saying something in the public against an individual that they know is false or criminal in nature. Like I said, it's de facto slanderous. It's a situation. We saw this also with MX with his cartoons. We've talked about this before, where if you're a public figure, you are more exposed to commentary about you. And we saw even with Sheriff Buntage, some of the positions that MX put him in reference to wearing women's lingerie and other positions. Same things about you. They've put you in a couple positions that you didn't care for, and in reference to the cartoons, I was in a couple of them myself. So in those instances, where does the First Amendment stop and where does the litigation start in reference to trying to curtail this activity? So, there's lots of case law that says what can and cannot be done. And in this instance, I think there's an allegation that somebody was a member of the KKK. I think when you start making statements like that, you are over the line and you can expose yourself to, civil penalties. Should that person also be exposed to criminal penalties for making a statement they know to be false? I think in those instances, I'm not sure that the police should be involved in doing that when we have an adequate avenue for taking care of the issue in the civil courts.
What's Facebook's liability?
Well, Facebook's liability in reference to regulating what somebody else posts, it seems that they try to be vigilant in reference to having standards by which people are allowed to post on their system, and they regulate that and they remove materials where somebody has pointed out that it's either spam or it's offensive and so forth. So I think they've done a good job of insulating themselves from exposure here because, for example, if you didn't like what this individual posted, you can send a notation to Facebook and they can either block that person from having access to your account. Neither one of you can talk. I mean, there's levels that they handle things. I think they've also suspended people's accounts for putting things on Facebook that they found to be over the top or in violation of their policies and procedures.
The incredible case of Jackie Sutton. Hey, you're on the air, George. What's up?
Yeah, I didn't really want to weigh in on this, but since you brought it up, I am really concerned with the abuse of subpoena versus and the Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable searches, and with respect to abusing this idea of prior restraint, what amounts to prior restraint. Like you say, if somebody's defaming a public figure, and there are protections to public figures, as you well know, with respect to defamation, depending on the severity of it. But criminalizing political opinion, I don't think so. I don't think so. I find this just way over the top. I don't know what those people are thinking over there at county. I see 1983 actions coming down the pipe. I mean,
what are you referring to? How the subpoena powers was?
There was no subpoena power.
Well, I mean, the
Times
Times said they looked at some subpoenaed information. So
well, they can look at subpoenaed information, but a subpoena, as on Harlow's show, Ken Davidson brought out with respect to there weren't any charges filed. There weren't any criminal charges filed. So there is no basis for a subpoena. You've got to get a warrant to get that kind of information. Where was the probable cause that a crime had been committed? Just simply, and not only that, if that a statutory provision, the First Amendment is clear. Congress and the states, by virtue of the 14th Amendment, can't make any law restricting freedom of speech, and public opinion is obviously political speech. So if it's defamatory, that's a separate action. That doesn't go to the constitutionality of the right to political opinion.
Okay, all right. You brought up a good point. So
he did a very good job of outlining it. That's if you start using your police powers and you're a state actor and you are going to do things that you would not be allowed to do without the intervention of the courts, because again, that's check on abuse of political power, and you are not going to the courts and you are violating somebody's constitutional rights, he's right. There could be exposure in a 1983 action, which means that if a state actor uses their power to violate someone's constitutional rights, they can be hauled into federal court and have to answer to those actions to see if there was a violation of the constitutional right, and then if there was, pay monetary damages as determined by a jury.
So how did they get this information that they're saying that they did some forensic information to get it? They're saying it went back to Dave Dowling's house in the Crown Point School Corporation, where allegedly Dave's wife might work. Or
I read that. I don't know.
How,
George is saying that it was discussed on Harlow's show, so I would defer to them. I don't know how. I did read that was what they were saying, and they also listed a few individuals locally. Their names as well were listed in the article. So I don't know how that information was gathered.
How? Yeah, I mean,
but there is no criminal.
I hadn't even thought about that.
There's no criminal proceeding. There's no civil proceeding. For example, if I file a lawsuit, I can then get subpoena power, and I can have Facebook or a hospital or the jails or whoever I'm dealing with produce certain documents to me. If they don't want to produce them, the judge can intervene, and then we can have a discussion as to whether I'm entitled to the documentation or not. But you, as an attorney, get subpoena power, but you only get that subpoena power once you have an action filed. Same thing with the criminal courts. The prosecutor has subpoena power once they're involved in a filing of a criminal complaint here. So how did they get subpoena power? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a
we
good
don't even
question.
know where. So I guess a good question is, where did that information come from? Was it a subpoena? Was it a private person did some computer forensics? Was it something that Bernie Carter and Oscar Martinez ordered? That's a good question. I never even thought of that. Is how did they get that information that there may be computer footprints back to these people's houses? And they're saying this is ridiculous, and maybe it isn't. Maybe they are behind it. And even if they are, can you use the police powers to just basically unveil who's behind something for no real charges reason? I guess there's a lot of issues in there. I know this thing stinks, but I didn't realize there were so many legal possibilities.
And
here.
you're saying can, we also say should. I mean, should somebody have access through the prosecutor or through a police department to go after a political person that you do not like, or somebody who's attempting to go after you because you are a political person? We've heard this discussions with Trump still saying, lock up Hillary even after the election. And a lot of people were commenting, the president should not be asking that a political opponent be subject to criminal penalties after an election, because then you are attempting to dissuade individuals from, voicing their opinion or in any way interfering with what your political aspirations are. So that's a slippery slope.
He's Dave Gladish. We got to finish, Dave. Thanks for coming in.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Dave Gladish. Look for another lunch with lawyers coming out. I was at El Taco Real yesterday. We did some excellent filming there, went into the kitchen and stuff. And Gladish and his guys will be coming out with another version, maybe in a couple weeks. Hey, we got a special guest today. He was born in Logansport, and he graduated from Purdue. And he has been developing stuff with Don Powers, the late Don Powers, since the mid-1970s. He will be part of the PNW Today show, and I will actually host that today to show proper respect to a guy by the name of Joe Williamson. All right, guys, I'll be right back. AM 1230, WJOB 104.7 FM, the voice and face of the region.
Travel better with Gary